Coming up, a fatal crash in Oklahoma claims the lives of 6 students.
All right, we hang in there one more day of rain rolling through the 4 states. Then we actually begin a little weekend warm-up. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch website.
And a crash claims the life of a Carl Junction woman.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 5 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment. But first, let's go to Michael Hayslip.
All right, Tanya, we actually may end up seeing some snowflakes today. Nothing's going to stick, but don't be surprised if you don't see a white snowflake every now and then. The rain, and this is what I had a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday. I felt really bad yesterday. And sometimes you got to stand up and you got to own it. Well, you should always stand up and own it. We didn't get as much rain as I thought we were, quite frankly. That low pressure system that was sitting down in Texas, I'm not making excuses, folks, when I tell you this. I'm going to tell you like where I screwed up. The low pressure system that was sitting down in Texas, I thought it was going to move northeast, which would have pushed everything toward us. Well, the thing just moved straight east, took it right along the Gulf Coast. And I mean, I'm sitting at home yesterday afternoon. I saw patches of blue sky. I did not anticipate that. So I was
You
wrong
saw
about
the blue
that.
sky. I just saw a bunch of gray and misery out there.
Did you? Okay. Now we're back at it this morning. It's not hard rain by any means, but we were talking about that possibility of some snow, and that is in fact what we're seeing. Look up here to the north, and like I said, we're not talking about like massive amounts of it. But yeah, and even a little freezing precip. What we're going to keep our eye on this morning is what transpires along I-49 in between, say, Nevada and KC. As we work down here to the south, it kind of tapers off, especially in the central, and then kind of picks back up for Oklahoma. We do still have a flood warning there for the Little Osage River in Vernon County. That's the only one that we have, though, so that's pretty good news compared to the 4 that we had yesterday. As we take a look at the expiration time, it lasts all the way until Friday, and really we're looking at minor flooding right now. For those of you in Vernon County, you're well aware of kind of how that transpires and the places to watch out for. Mostly cloudy skies with temperatures that have drastically cooled off compared to the mid-50s that we had for the last couple of days. Now we're seeing everything as low as the mid-30s. And so that was the cold front that got ushered in. And once again, here's my pesky trough, okay? So I thought this thing was going to go this away, and it went this away. And that's on me, and that's why we did not get as much rain as we thought. Now, that being said, I'll find you a silver lining here. Saved us from extending those flood warnings that we had. We've been able to lift them in Delaware, Barton, and Jasper counties. Those no longer exist, so that is good news. And then really after we get through today and into tomorrow with just scattered showers, no more thunder, no more lightning, shouldn't have any more flooding concerns. Then we begin a nice little warm up into the weekend, 60s, sunshine.
Well, we did get enough rain for, Lake KOAM to develop outside my office window. And now I was welcomed back to work this morning with lovely supply of ants.
While you were gone, we picked up 2.5 inches on Tuesday.
It did happen.
No, I love your impeccable timing. You're like, oh, Michael, it might flood. I think I'll leave town. And then I love it. She comes back, and I'm just like, well, no, it's just drizzle, Tanya. It's fine.
Just drizzle. Just drizzle and a welcome army of ants. My office desk. It's hard to see their friendly faces at 4 o'clock in the morning, that's for sure. All right, moving along. A Southern Oklahoma high school and community are grieving this morning as they learn that 6 students have died in a crash. The 6 students were in a car that collided with a semi-truck on U.S. Highway 377 near Tishomingo, Oklahoma, yesterday afternoon. Oklahoma Highway Patrol did not have details of the collision or the exact ages of the students, but says all 6 victims were female. Tishomingo Public School Superintendent Bobby Wadham said in a Facebook post that the district had a great loss involving students from the district's high school and that our hearts are broken. The district made counselors available at the high school and said the school would be open today with a focus on the emotional well-being of our students. Carl Junction woman has died from injuries suffered in a crash Sunday morning. Joplin police say the crash happened on State Highway 171 and North St. Louis Avenue. 48-year-old Rebecca McAllister was driving west when the vehicle left the road and struck a stoplight pole. McAllister died at a local hospital. Authorities have released the identity of a man shot by Joplin police over the weekend, and they filed charges against him. 34-year-old Michael Yarga of Joplin is charged with third-degree assault and resisting arrest. The incident happened Saturday. Police say an officer made contact with 3 people near 9th and Connor when one man ran and the officer chased after him. Authorities say Yarga stopped a few blocks away and assaulted the officer. A second officer then shot Yarga. Injured officer was treated and released. Yarga is still in the hospital. Missouri Highway Patrol is investigating the shooting. A second person is arrested in connection with the shooting death of a 15-year-old Chanute, Kansas teen. Police were called to the 200 block of Walnut, where they found Nasha Gregory with a gunshot wound on March 13th. She died at a hospital. According to court documents, 20-year-old Mackenzie Steves of Topeka is now charged with endangering the welfare of a child, contributing to a child's misconduct, and interference with law enforcement. Steves was arrested in Coffeyville. Steve's co-defendant, 19-year-old Traven Hayes Smith, is already in custody, charged with involuntary manslaughter, aggravated child endangerment, contributing to a child's misconduct, and interference with law enforcement. Both will be in court this week for their first appearance. Police in Parsons, Kansas are searching for a suspect who they say tried to kill a man. In a news release, authorities announced they're looking for David Young III. They say Young got into a fight with Tyrone Mayweathers of Kansas City in front of a Parsons bar and shot Mayweathers. First responders found Mayweathers with multiple gunshot wounds and rushed him to the hospital, where he is still receiving care. Young is wanted for attempted second-degree murder and criminal possession of a firearm by a felon. Police believe he has left the area. A Kansas City man has died from injuries suffered in a Joplin fire last week. Fire crews were called last Thursday to a fire at an old warehouse on the 1400 block of South Virginia. 2 people were taken to the hospital with burns. 50-year-old Aaron Simons has died from his injuries. The Joplin Fire Marshal has ruled the fire accidental due to occupants grinding metal near combustible materials. On Tuesday, folks in Vernon County, Missouri helped raise money for a local museum. The Vernon County Historical Society hosted its annual Night for the Museum Gala. It featured a meal, music from the Nevada High School show choir, and an auction of donated items. The money raised from the event will go to the Bushwhacker Museum in Nevada.
Feels great. Like I said, it's great being back doing this. So exciting, seeing all these people coming out, having fun, being safe, and sharing a good meal. And it's the camaraderie and the fellowship of a community that we've kind of lost the last couple years.
Theme for this year's gala was a league of their own, 1940s women's baseball. As part of that theme, the meal was based around ballpark foods. Check out those costumes. Pittsburgh theater teacher is getting some national recognition for her work. Lola Wade teaches at St. Mary's Colgan High School and was named the 2022 recipient of National High School Heart of the Arts Award. This week, her students are performing Beauty and the Beast. Yesterday, elementary students got a sneak peek of the show.
I just want them to succeed because really theater is a crossover. It's a crossover class because what they learn in theater and music and art, they can apply to any part of their life and anything they want to do.
Opening night for Beauty and the Beast is at 7 p.m. There will be 2 additional shows on Saturday at 2 and at 7. Well, today's featured baby animal is 4-month-old baby Logan, who is a white rhino. When you think of conservation efforts, Disney isn't the first place that comes to mind, but they are helping the cause. Logan weighs 530 pounds and is the 13th white rhino to be born at the Animal Kingdom theme park. Logan has two other half-siblings, Milo, who is 2 months older than her and weighs 100 pounds more, and Ranger, who weighs 1,685 pounds. That's a big boy. All right. Some lovely animals there. I don't think I'd want to be.
I'm going through the injury reports of the New Orleans tornado right now. They're putting it at 15 injured. I don't know if you've seen any of the video that came out of the New Orleans area. No fatalities. And the extent of damage that they have with the number of homes that are turned over there. And the fact that, we're talking about a major metropolis. And the fact that my kids just got back from there.
What's the time of year when a lot of people just got back from New Orleans
they were sitting right in that, not even the elevated area yesterday. They were sitting in what was considered the extreme portion of the severe thunderstorm risk map. So it was imminent. But yeah, as I'm looking at the damage reports and I'm looking at the video, yeah.
Well, coming up in our next hour, we're going to be taking an in-depth look at the damage.
I know, yeah.
there
Like
in
I said,
New Orleans,
I had new stuff coming in from the National Weather Service, and that's why I knew that you were reading, and I apologize for that. I'm not going to pretend I was paying attention, but as this just came in, I was like, oh my goodness.
It was a baby white rhino. I mean,
okay.
It was pretty cute.
I'm sure it was adorable. We've got scattered drizzle throughout the 4 states, even some snowflakes up into the far north. But as we continue for today and tomorrow, you'll notice our rain does begin to taper off bit by bit by bit. Now, that being said, you have to remember, we're still sitting anywhere from 2.5 to 3 inches of rain since the week began. Our flood warnings right now are limited to the Little Osage River in Vernon County. That's the only one that we have existing. And a 7-day forecast that after we get through really the next 2 days and we can kind of get rid of the scattered variety Thursday afternoon, we can warm back up for the weekend.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, Brett Zarwinski of Galena is named Player of the Year. We're going to tell you why. Plus, a hotel in Arizona is doing more than just putting food on the table for Afghan refugees. They're helping them get back on their feet. And with the new COVID variant, there's fears it will cause another uptick in cases across the U.S. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Yesterday was opening day of spring practice for Pitt State football. The Gorillas 14 practices scheduled in the next few weeks before playing the annual spring game April 15th. Pitt State finished 8-3 overall last fall, 4th in the MIAA. Gorillas return 8 offensive players, 7 on defense, who started at least 5 games last season. Now let's talk a little bit about the defense. All-American linebacker P.J. Zarwinski returning. Other great players like Zeke Wall, Luke Jennings, Brandon Malikas, Alex Gaskell, to name a few. Now they do lose a few All-Americans. Those go by the name of Dallas Flowers. And all-conference players, Caden Roy and Jordan Hendy. So there are some big shoes to fill on that side of the ball.
I got guys like Keandre Hall, they're going to step up. I know Nate Woods, a local Pittsburgh guy. I'm fortunate to be with the guys, whoever it's going to be, and we're going to be good.
That's the fun part of having spring practice, is getting to see some of those guys, that next group of guys to step into leadership roles or starting roles, or guys that were freshmen that just showed up last fall, and see them step up and make some plays this spring. So excited to evaluate our whole football team this year in that aspect.
What is this you say? There are people on the field playing baseball. Oh, that's right, the lockout.
It's whacked out to
spring training action. Cardinals, Paul Goldschmidt. Solo home run, ground rule double, other than the 4th inning. Goldschmidt went 1 for 3. 2 batters later, Nolan Arenado. Now that'll be a home run. That ain't coming back. Cards go up 3-0. Brendan Donovan, he would homer later for the Cardinals. They win today. Once again, like I've always said about spring training action, It's not exciting. It is sitting back and seeing who gets hurt. They did win 4-0. In other spring training action, Royals facing the Oakland A's. All Oakland early. Austin Allen with a 2-run home run as the A's go up 3-0. But here comes KC in the 6th. Hey, Royals fans. We just had a Bobby Witt Jr. sighting. There it is. Bobby Witt Jr.'s debut on KOAM TV. Well, no, actually, probably they did the sports highlights last night. It was his morning show debut. How about that? Royals win it 5-3. Galena's Brett Sarwinski. He is the Sports in Kansas 3A Boys Basketball Player of the Year. Congratulations to Brett. Congratulations to his mom and his dad, too, turning out just a marvelous family and a family full of athletes. It's the second straight season that Brett has earned that honor. The senior guard, great all season for the Bulldogs. Sarwinski posted 19.5 points, 7 rebounds per game, 4 assists per night. Now, Sarwinski helped Galena make 3 straight appearances in the 3A state tournament. That includes 2 Final Fours, and he leaves the program as the school's all-time leading scorer. Here's his coach on what makes Sarwinski one of the best to do it for Galena.
He's the kid that's always, ever since, 7th and 8th grade, watching him play, that he always put in the hard work outside of practice. I mean, he'd be up here at night. His dad bring him up to the gym, and he'd get extra shots up. He'd stay after practice and get extra shots up. All of that will lead him to be the all-time points leader, to get the respect of the people around the state.
The support around here is just crazy, from the community and everything. It means a lot to me. It really does. When I play the game and people are always behind me, it just helps me stay locked in and know I'm playing for them.
Finally, the Northwest Missouri State men still carrying the torch for the MIAA in the national tournament as the Bearcats beat Bentley 61-43 in the Elite 8. Trevor Hudgens, a team-high 24 points as Northwest Mo now moves on to play in the national semifinals Thursday against Black Hills State. Still to come on the KOAM Morning News, the search is on for the black box of the airplane that crashed in China and a check on our 7-day forecast when the KOAM Morning News returns. Sitting out about 5:22 as we take a look at the Skywatch storm tracker. We are not only picking up some light rain, you guys even see some snowflakes up there to the north, and it's certainly not going to stick. We're just, our ground is too warm, and we've had a couple nice days of weather. But we're going to eyeball I-49 for the rest of the morning. We're going to watch this from Joplin through Lamar, Nevada, all the way to KC in case you got to be on the road. Now, anywhere else you're going, yeah, you may have the windshield wipers on, but you're not going to run into the hard rain of any variety. So, like I said, we'll kind of concentrate on that area of southwest Missouri as it pushes up to the north. Temperatures right now much cooler than what we've had past couple of days, anywhere from the mid-30s to the low 40s. About a 15-degree drop in some places. Now, as we move throughout today, we're tapering off our rain. Certainly not as extensive as what we had on Tuesday. So as the days go by in the work week, we get a little less. But at the same point in time, you have to remember, we're already sitting at 2.5 inches in place, close to 3 down in McDonald County, as a matter of fact. Only flooded warning that we have in effect right now, though, is for the Little Osage River in Vernon County. And really, our flooding concerns should be done, be able to absorb what we have left. And then by the time we get to Friday, finally a little sunshine, back up into the 60s. Time now for our Something to Talk About, our KOAM News Now Instapoll. A Phoenix, Arizona hotel doing its part to help improve the lives of Afghan refugees who recently migrated. The Sheraton in downtown Phoenix is employing more than 40 refugees. But as Kim Powell shows us, the chain is doing more than just putting food on their table.
Mohammed Fahim Azizi has been in America for 7 months now and happy to be able to provide for his family.
I spent like 3 months in a camp, so when I came back to here, I spent 2 months in a hotel and it was a bad situation. Now I feel like a little bit good. And I have a job now. It's good.
Fahim's positive attitude beams out of him, even after all he's been through.
I never see like this type of work before, like they're gonna help, they're gonna pay you, they're gonna help you, and also if you have family issue, they're gonna help whatever like you need, they're gonna help you. That's why I like about Sheraton.
He's one of more than 40 refugees who are now working at the Sheraton in downtown Phoenix. The market director of human resources says they make up about 15% of their staff right now.
Housekeeping, dishwashing, cook, server assistant, purchasing and receiving, accounting, banquet setup.
Aaron Flothmeyer said they started hiring refugees after they came across a resume, and then one referral led to another and another.
It's been hard to fill positions these days, especially in hospitality, and this group of individuals is loyal and dedicated, and they're thrilled to be here.
Not only does the Sheraton give them a place to work with full pay and benefits, but they also help them get back on their feet.
We've not only done bank accounts with them and showed them how to use the bus, but we've constructed a prayer room because 100% of them are Muslim, and so they want to continue their faith, and we want to give them a space to do that.
Fahim says it's like family.
When I came here and I saw like the people here and the society, like they work in like a family here, like it was pretty cool for me.
Fahim says a friend working at the Sheraton referred him to the hotel. Our Something to Talk About on the KOAM News Now Insta poll is if you would take in a refugee. Let us know by logging on to KOAMNewsNow.com/vote. You can also connect to us via our Facebook page. We'll be back with Health Watch right after this.
Topping Health Watch this morning, after new COVID-19 cases rise in Europe, top health officials expect increases in the U.S. too. One expert says it's time to prepare now. Mandy Gaither has the latest on what's going on with the Omicron subvariant.
In the UK, new COVID-19 cases are climbing once again, driven largely by the Omicron BA.2 subvariant. And top health officials say what happens there tends to play out here in the U.S. about 2 to 3 weeks later.
We better pay close attention to what's going on there.
Dr. Anthony Fauci says the U.S. will likely see an uptick in cases, but not a surge, as BA.2 is more contagious than the original Omicron variant. But right now, Fauci says it doesn't seem to be the cause of the UK's rise in hospitalizations.
It's a very interesting situation where the cases are going up, but it does not at this point in time appear to be any degree of severity.
Fauci says BA.2 may become the dominant variant in the U.S. today. The CDC said it was the cause of nearly 35% of new COVID-19 infections in the past week, up from about 22% the week before. Fauci cautions the U.S. needs to be prepared for the possibility of another variant in the future. That means building up supplies of antivirals and tests and vaccinations.
We can't just say we're done. Now we're going to move on. We've got to be able to be flexible.
Meanwhile, FDA vaccine advisors are scheduled to meet on April 6th to discuss the possible need for COVID-19 booster shots in the future and whether the vaccine could become an annual shot similar to flu shots.
A growing share of sewage systems in the U.S. have detected increased levels of coronavirus in recent weeks. According to data released last week from the CDC, nearly 40% of wastewater sampling sites with recent data reported at least some level increase over the past 15 days, more than twice the share from a month ago. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
Light rain on our Wednesday morning and temperatures down into the 40s later on. It's much chillier than what we had past couple of days. Rain tapers off with each passing moment. It does carry us into Thursday, and then after that, get ready for a great weekend. We just got to get past the next 2 days with the umbrellas. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Coming up, a fatal crash in Oklahoma claims the lives of 6 students.
A little more rain going to linger around for the next couple of days, and also, too, much cooler temperatures. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And a crash claims the life of a Carl Junction woman.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is now 5:34. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first, let's go to Michael Hayslip.
Little rain still hanging around, Tanya, especially for the northern portion of the 4 states. I kind of want to focus in on southwest Missouri, and here's why. We'll concentrate on I-49 this morning because we're going to see that's going to be our major thoroughfare that will absorb the most rain. Anything that you do see is some snowflakes up to the north right there. Luckily, our ground going to be warm enough that not a whole lot of it's going to stick. But If you're living up in the north or you're traveling up in the north, thy eyes do not deceive you. That will be a little snow coming down every now and then. Now, we do have a flood warning in effect for Vernon County, Little Osage River up there just north of Nevada. You'll also notice that a little elongated, as this thing does not expire until Friday evening. Now, we're going to go with minor flooding in Vernon County. We haven't seen anything major, and the positive aspect of it all is, compared to where we were at this point in time yesterday, we've been able to lift the flood warnings in Delaware, Barton, McDonald, and Jasper counties. So we're headed in the right direction, let's put it that way. Temperatures much cooler than what we've experienced earlier in the week. As you remember when it started raining, we were sitting in the 50s, and you're like, this is tolerable. Well, now we've got the drizzle, and it's down into the 30s, and we're going to be stuck in the 40s for the next 2 afternoons. Now, Friday brings us great news. Sunny skies, back up into the 60s, and really a great-looking weekend.
Yeah. Looking forward to some sunshine finally.
We're getting the yuck out of the way here from Monday through Thursday, and then we'll have a great looking weekend.
Definitely some yuck right now. I'm ready for it to be over. All right. Thanks, Michael. Well, Southern Oklahoma High School and community are grieving as they learn that 6 students have died in a crash. The 6 students were in a car that collided with a semi-truck on U.S. Highway 377 near Tishomingo, Oklahoma yesterday afternoon. Oklahoma Highway Patrol did not have details of the collision or the exact ages of the students, but says all 6 victims were female. Tishomingo Public School Superintendent Bobby Wadham said in a Facebook post that the district had a great loss involving students from the district's high school and that our hearts are broken. The district made counselors available at the high school and said the school would be open today with a focus on the emotional well-being of our students. A Carl Junction woman has died from injuries suffered in a crash Sunday morning. Joplin police say the crash happened on State Highway 171 and North St. Louis Avenue. 48-year-old Rebecca McAllister was driving west when the vehicle left the road and struck a stoplight pole. McAllister died at a local hospital. KOAM is always looking to hear from aspiring journalists, so we are continuing a program where we air stories shot, written, and edited by local students. This story comes from Joplin High School. Reporter Kennedy Dury shows us how the Franklin Technology Center is giving local students a taste of Hollywood filmmaking.
Joplin students are getting a slight taste of Hollywood filmmaking. David Smith teaches the film class at Franklin Technology Center and talks about how this project got started.
I had my film class propose some ideas. Everybody came up with their own idea for a film. Just a short synopsis of what their story would be about. We had them pitch those to us in class. We all read them and talked about them, and we came up with one.
A couple weeks were spent crunching the idea to make it perfect. So the million-dollar question is, what did they come up with?
It's actually more of a story about a friendship with a supernatural element to it. A young woman who is very alone. She's just lost her parents, but she loves to paint. She's a wonderful artist, and her whole life she's been painting a particular person. As she has grown from a little girl, this character has grown with her in her paintings. We find that this young girl that she's painted in the picture has come to life.
One of the life lessons taught in this class is teamwork, and a film doesn't happen without it.
We're limited by the number of students that we have, so everybody has to wear a lot of different hats. Everything that we're doing from scratch. So it is quite a massive undertaking, and it's going to take quite a bit of work to get it done.
Not many students have the opportunity in high school to take a film class. Some would have to travel away and take it in college. This class offers a Hollywood experience, but in Joplin.
This is a full story from start to finish, a short film, where we actually work with every student to make them a part of a film crew, like they would actually be if they were working on a Hollywood film or if they were working on an independent film. All of the things that come together to be on a movie set and a movie crew, we're putting them in there. So they will have actual real-world hands-on experience in making a film.
The JHS film class will be working on this short film for the next couple months, so stay tuned for a release date. Reporting for JHD, this is Kennedy Dury.
Again, thank you to Joplin High School student Kennedy Dury for that report. You did an excellent job. Here's Michael with a look at your forecast.
And temperatures today much cooler than what we experienced on Monday and Tuesday. We're going to be stuck in the 40s today. So now that we're kind of taking a look at long term, because we'll get back to the 60s by Friday. Let's break down our radar here. I think the key factor is what we're seeing up to the north, and we're going to concentrate mainly on I-49 today, on a line from Joplin through Lamar up through Nevada to Kansas City, because that's where that heavy rain is moving toward right now. You got to be on the road. You're going to Springfield, you're going to Wichita, you're going down to Tulsa. Really, you're going down to Bentonville, you're going to be okay. Yeah, it's really headed north is where we're going to see the majority of the trouble. Remember, flood warning for the Little Osage River in Vernon County, and that does not expire until Friday night.
Well, this morning we are discussing refugees. A hotel in Phoenix, Arizona is helping improve the lives of Afghan refugees who recently migrated to the United States. Not only is the hotel giving them a paycheck that helps put food on their table alongside benefits, they're helping them get back on their feet as well. They've helped them get bank accounts, showed them how to use the bus, and even constructed them a prayer room. The employees there feel like it's one big family, especially after all the effort they've put in for them to make their transition to America easier. This brings us to our something to talk about, especially since we know that there are so many Ukrainian refugees leaving Ukraine at the moment. Would you take in refugees?
I'll tell you right now, 73% of our respondents say yes, indeed they would.
All right. That's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News, guinea pigs are given a new home after 50 of them are turned over. Plus, South Korea surpasses 10 million COVID cases. We'll have the latest. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. Topping World Watch, search teams are climbing mountains to find the black boxes from a Boeing 737 jet that crashed yesterday in southeast China. 132 people were on that flight, and so far there are no survivors. It's China's first deadly plane crash since 2010. The Boeing jet was just 7 years old. Seth Doan has more.
Rescuers in southern China are continuing to search the hilly, rough terrain where that China Eastern Airlines 737-800 crashed after its nearly vertical nosedive from the sky. This chilling surveillance footage may have captured the final moments of the flight. This video circulating on social media has not been verified. Tracking data shows the plane departed the Chinese city of Kunming early Monday and had been flying at roughly 29,000 feet before plummeting to 8,000 feet in just over a minute. The aircraft then briefly climbed about 1,000 feet before the data abruptly ends, about 40 seconds later. Robert Sumwalt is a former chairman of the National Transportation Safety Board.
I think it's very important to point out that this is not the 737 MAX that was grounded 3 years ago because of two accidents. This is the 737-800, which is an earlier model of the 737. It has a very good safety record.
Crashes during the cruise phase of flight are reportedly rare.
Is there any early idea of what a possible cause might be?
Well, the good thing is an airplane like this has data that is transmitted on about once every second. I think that the investigators will have a good idea of what happened.
As loved ones wait for answers, China Eastern has grounded all of its 737-800s. Seth Doan, London.
South Korea passed a grim milestone on Tuesday in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. Authorities recorded over 490,000 daily infections, bringing the country's total cases to more than 10 million since the pandemic began. In recent weeks, the country has recorded some of the highest daily averages in the world. Just last Thursday alone, over 600,000 cases were recorded. That's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. We'll be right back with the news you need to know before you head out the door. Here's the check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Southern Oklahoma High School and community are grieving this morning as they learn that 6 students have died in a crash. The 6 students were in a car that collided with a semi-truck on U.S. Highway 377 near Tishomingo, Oklahoma yesterday afternoon. Oklahoma Highway Patrol did not have details of the collision or the exact ages of the students, but says all 6 victims were female. Tishomingo Public School Superintendent Bobby Wadham said in a Facebook post the district had a great loss involving students from the district's high school and that our hearts are broken. The district made counselors available at the high school and said the school would be open today with a focus on the emotional well-being of our students. Carl Junction woman has died from injuries suffered in a crash Sunday morning. Joplin police say the crash happened on State Highway 171 in North St. Louis Avenue. 48-year-old Rebecca McAllister was driving west when the vehicle left the road and struck a stoplight pole. McAllister died at a local hospital. Authorities have released the identity of a man shot by Joplin police over the weekend, and they filed charges against him. 34-year-old Michael Yarga of Joplin is charged with third-degree assault and resisting arrest. The incident happened Saturday. Police say an officer made contact with 3 people near 9th and Connor when one man ran and the officer chased after him. Authorities say Yarga stopped a few blocks away and assaulted the officer. A second officer then shot Yarga. The injured officer was treated and released. Yarga is still in the hospital. Missouri Highway Patrol is investigating the shooting. Second person is arrested in connection with the shooting death of a 15-year-old Chanute, Kansas teen. Police were called to the 200 block of Walnut, where they found Nasha Gregory with a gunshot wound on March 13th. She died at a hospital. According to court documents, 20-year-old Mackenzie Steves of Topeka is now charged with endangering the welfare of a child, contributing to a child's misconduct, and interference with law enforcement. Steves was arrested in Coffeyville. Steve's co-defendant, 19-year-old Traven Hayes Smith, is already in custody, charged with involuntary manslaughter, aggravated child endangerment, contributing to a child's misconduct, and interference with law enforcement. Both will be in court this week for their first appearance. And that's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
From the national perspective, where severe storms ripped through the Gulf Coast yesterday, to here in the 4 states where we do see the rain coming down for our northern counties, and now starting to build up a little bit down to the south and northeast Oklahoma as well. I-49 will be what we eyeball today, because as that storm system moves from west to east, that'll be the major thoroughfare that is covered. Really doesn't stretch south enough to kind of cover all of Highway 54 on a east-west route. You do see a little blue and purple in there, indicating some snowflakes that are coming down. Not going to be able to stick around those. Temperatures will eventually make it up into the 40s later on today. But that is quite cooler than what we've had past couple of days. You know, past couple of days, even with the rain, we've been able to push high 50s, even some 60s every now and then. As this thing continues off to the east, we become a little more tapered and scattered for Thursday. Now, by the time we get done with Thursday, we should be done with our rain as well. Then we get ready for a nice weekend warm-up. 60s on Friday, pretty much 60s on Saturday as well. Then, look at those 70s popping up next week. Be back with more KOM Morning News after this.
Almost 50 guinea pigs found themselves in need of a home last week after they were given to a Minnesota Animal Control Center. But as Kristen Mitchell reports, it didn't take long for some of them to find a place to call home.
At Becky Boyer's home, the newest addition to the family is settling right in.
She loves lettuce and dislikes apples.
Polly Pocket was one of 49 guinea pigs surrendered to St. Paul Animal Control on Wednesday. By Saturday, all were gone to rescues and foster homes.
Cage, hay, food, water bottle, everything. Everything was set. We just needed to bring her home.
From Becky and Egan to Mike and Rosemont.
Our foster group leader, she was contacted my wife, and we said absolutely.
Minnesotans stepped up.
My wife and I have been doing it for 17 years now, and usually dogs, but we have a foster turtle.
And now, Cupcake.
It's wonderful how many people, really step up and help out when there's animals in need.
Both Becky and Mike think that their guinea pigs are pregnant, and with an average of 3 pups in a litter, experts say it's easy for their population to get out of control.
The situation could have been so much worse. The last thing we want to do is shame someone that did come forward and
was seeking that help, and they did the right thing.
Rough Start Rescue was one of several organizations that picked up the guinea pigs.
We just want to make sure people know that rescues, animal controls are a safe place to reach out to, and they're not going to be criticized for asking for help.
They still have several waiting for their forever homes, while others may have already found theirs.
Do you think you'll keep her?
Probably.
We'll be right back with another look at your forecast.
The hardest of the rain now been shifted all the way to the east over the Florida Panhandle, making its way toward the mid-Atlantic, but we are not void without our precipitation on this Wednesday morning, as we do see it not only coming down up to the north and making its way from us all the way through Kansas City and turning into a little snow on the north side of that, but as a matter of fact now creeping into northeast Oklahoma as well. Certainly not as widespread as we've had past couple of days. Much cooler as well, as our temperatures right now are in the 30s and only making it up into the 40s. Later on today, void of any sunshine, rain does begin to taper off though, bit by bit as we approach Wednesday night into Thursday. And then by the time we're done on Thursday, we get ready for a beautiful weekend warm-up. How about we roll 60s Friday through Sunday and then 70s for the beginning of next week? More KOAM Morning News right after this.
Coming up, a fatal crash takes the lives of 6 students in Oklahoma.
Scattered rainfall across the 4 states for a Wednesday morning and much cooler temperatures. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch website.
And a Carl Junction woman loses her life in the hospital after a Sunday morning car crash.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first, let's go to Michael Hayslip, Skywatch weather.
Certainly not coming down as hard as it has past couple of days, but at the same point in time, we can't escape it as we look at our current conditions over 7th and Rangeline, where we got some raindrops out there on the camera. 38 degrees is where we stand right now. Look at that wind chill we got, Tanya, because it's coming in from the north with a gust of 22 miles per hour, and that means it only feels like it's 29. T-Bach, you're going to bail me out here, because here's how we're going to do this, is we're going to take a look at our Skywatch storm tracker, and I'm going to show you exactly where the light rain is falling, and I am also going to tell you that our temperatures right now are in the 30s, and
Yikes.
that I-29, I-49, I don't even know why. I just put us in Des Moines. I have no idea why. I-49 is where we're going to concentrate on, because that's where we're seeing the majority of the rain to the north, and much cooler today, but tapering off by the time we get to Thursday.
All right. Well, I think you said I-29 comes out of Kansas City, so there's always rain in Kansas City. Yeah, for sure. All right, well, hopefully we can get some sunshine soon.
Yeah.
Ready to end all of this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michael. Authorities arrest a second person in connection with the shooting death of a 15-year-old Chanute, Kansas teen. Police were called to the 200 block of Walnut, where they found Nasha Gregory with a gunshot wound on March 13th. She died at a hospital. According to court documents, 20-year-old Mackenzie Steves of Topeka is now charged with endangering the welfare of a child, contributing to a child's misconduct, and interference with law enforcement. Steves was arrested in Coffeyville. Steves' co-defendant, 19-year-old Traven Hayes Smith, is already in custody, charged with involuntary manslaughter, aggravated child endangerment, contributing to a child's misconduct, and interference with law enforcement. Both will be in court this week for their first appearance. Police in Parsons, Kansas continue their search for a suspect wanted for attempted murder. In a news release, authorities announced they're looking for David Young III. They say Young got into a fight with Tyrone Mayweathers of Kansas City in front of a Parsons bar and shot Mayweathers. First responders found Mayweathers with multiple gunshot wounds and rushed him to the hospital, where he is still receiving care. Young is wanted for attempted second-degree murder and criminal possession of a firearm by a felon. Police believe he has left the area. Tragedy strikes an Oklahoma community as a car crash takes the lives of 6 students. The 6 students were in a car that collided with a semi-truck on U.S. Highway 377 near Tishomingo, Oklahoma, yesterday afternoon. Oklahoma Highway Patrol did not have details of the collision or the exact ages of the students, but says all 6 victims were female. Tishomingo Public School Superintendent Bobby Waitham said in a Facebook post the district had a great loss, involving students from the district's high school. Then our hearts are broken. District made counselors available at the high school and said the school would be open today, with a focus on the emotional well-being of our students. A Carl Junction woman succumbs to her injuries suffered in a crash Sunday morning. Joplin police say the crash happened on State Highway 171 and North St. Louis Avenue. 48-year-old Rebecca McAllister was driving west when the vehicle left the road and struck a stoplight pole. McAllister died at a local hospital. Kansas City man dies from injuries suffered in a Joplin fire last week. Fire crews were called last Thursday to a fire at an old warehouse on the 1400 block of South Virginia. 2 people were taken to the hospital with burns. 50-year-old Aaron Simons has died from his injuries. Joplin Fire Marshal ruled the fire accidental due to occupants grinding metal near combustible materials. Some local elementary students built a city of their own. 4th graders at Pittsburgh's Lakeside Elementary spent 3 months researching for their Just Imagine Kansas project. Students researched Kansas-based businesses to bring life to their new city. Teacher says it gives students a first-hand look at economics and local businesses.
I think that it does. It puts their hands on it. It makes it more real. I can stand in front of them and teach them supply and demand all day long, but when I'm putting it in their actual hands, they seem to click with it better.
Some local businesses donated products to the students to make their presentations more official, and the Chamber of Commerce hosted a ribbon cutting. President Biden flies to Europe today to meet with NATO and European leaders to discuss the war in Ukraine. On the table will be the next round of Russian sanctions and military aid to Ukraine. They will also discuss reducing Europe's dependence on Russian oil. On the ground, Ukrainian forces report taking back territories recently occupied by Russian troops. They say they've retaken the strategically important town of Makariv while fighting to wrest back control of the cities of Izium and Kherson. And while Russia continues to crack down on dissent at home, leading opposition leader Alexei Navalny was sentenced to 9 years in prison. We'll have more on the war in Ukraine in our next half hour. On this date, 1983, Barney Clark dies 112 days after becoming the world's first recipient of a permanent artificial heart. On December 2nd, 1982, a team led by Dr. William DeVries implanted the Jarvik 7 into Barney Clark. Because Jarvik's artificial heart was intended to be permanent, the Clark case drew worldwide attention. Clark spent his last 112 days in the hospital and suffered considerably from complications and the discomfort of having compressed air pumped in and out of his body. Clark's experience left many feeling that the time of the permanent artificial heart had not yet come. Meanwhile, in the 1990s, the Jarvik 7 was used on more than 150 patients whose hearts were too damaged to be aided by the mechanical pump implant. More than half of these patients survived until they received a transplant.
I remember him being on the cover of Time magazine after that happened. For some reason, I have like a vivid memory. I think it's because we were big Time magazine readers. I have a vivid memory of Time magazine covers. Sorry, folks. I'm hanging. I'm doing it. Like, why is Michael hunched over? Why is Michael sniffling? Can we go to the Skywatch Storm Tracker?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Please.
Couldn't think of a good transition.
Please get Michael off camera.
Speaking of time,
we got the rain that stretches from really about Vernon County up and of course in southeast Kansas to in Bourbon County, and it stretches all the way north of Kansas City. So that's one band right there. So if you're going to be on I-49 particularly, that's kind of the area I want to target this morning because we also have that flood warning. I'll get that flood warning here in just a little bit. And then we're starting to develop some in northeast Oklahoma, and then even in Joplin right now, we've got some light scattered rain. But that's we're seeing the most of the rain far north, far south. Now, speaking of that flood warning, here it is for the Little Osage River in Vernon County, lasting all the way until tomorrow morning because our accumulation numbers, you see that yellow right there, that's picking up close to 3 inches. And then you see these little pockets of orange, whether it be right there along Lamar or Neosho. And this one down in McDonald County, that is actually 3 inches. That's 3+ inches of rain that we've picked up since Monday. So that's rather impressive. The severe weather for today really shifts out toward the mid-Atlantic. It's going to be much cooler than what we've had past couple of days, though. You know, the rain tolerable, I guess, when you're sitting in the high 50s, if not 60 degrees. But for Wednesday and Thursday, we're down into the 40s.
All right, well.
I've got a brand new storm report that is coming out of New Orleans right now. They're going to go with 15 injured, but as of right now, no fatalities. So it's pretty. Which is an amazing in and of itself when you see that video.
And we'll be taking a look at that. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, deadly tornado touches down in New Orleans. Severe weather continues its rampage across the South. We'll take a look. Plus, authorities seize 50,000 fentanyl pills in a massive drug bust. And over 70% of nurses have contemplated leaving nursing during the COVID pandemic. You're watching KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. Topping Nation Watch this morning, climate and conservation groups are suing the Department of Interior for more information about its November review of its oil and gas leasing program. That report was widely criticized for sidestepping the program's impact on the climate crisis. The groups filed multiple Freedom of Information Act requests last year to access correspondence between federal officials on the drafting of the report. One of the group's attorneys says the department did turn over certain documents, but they were redacted. The attorney estimated roughly 75% of the information was redacted. The review recommended an increase in leasing fees and consideration of environmental concerns in leasing decisions. However, it did not recommend a halt to new oil and gas leasing, a promise President Biden campaigned on. An Interior Department spokesperson declined to comment on the lawsuit. The DEA shut down what it calls a major narcotic trafficking organization in California last week. A months-long investigation netted the seizure of 50,000 fentanyl pills and 45 pounds of methamphetamine, Camarillo. The fentanyl pills were copies of prescription oxycodone tablets, but were laced with potentially fatal doses of the synthetic opioid instead. 7 suspects were taken into custody in connection with the seizure. The arrests come as the U.S. overdose deaths reach another record high, largely due to a surge caused by fentanyl. New police video captures the dangers of the opioid crisis. It shows Colorado police officers saving a woman's life on March 8th. They had to use 4 doses of Narcan, when normally just 1 would be enough to see improvement during an overdose. Julie Martin has the story, but we want to warn you, some viewers may find the video you're about to see disturbing.
3 Narcan administration. 4th dose administered.
Just 3 minutes before this, Cannon City police found a woman showing signs of an overdose inside of this car.
Where's your Narcan at? There's your other Narcan. I got a 3rd one.
Officers used 4 doses of Narcan, and you can hear the woman start to wheeze as she regains consciousness.
Oh, there you go. There we go.
Police were told the woman took Percocets, an opioid medication.
Did she shoot it? Because there's a tourniquet on her arm.
They say the pills have been known to be laced with fentanyl.
She shot it up? Yeah. She shot a Perc 30 up?
The woman was transported to the hospital where she survived. Officer Kyle Hansen, Austin Phillips are the 2 seen administering the Narcan, ultimately saving the woman's life. Cannon City Police Chief John Schick said he was proud of the officers' ability to work collaboratively through a life and death crisis. They saw someone in critical need and saved someone's life.
Officers Hance and Phillips are set to be presented with a life-saving award at next month's City Council meeting. Well, a large tornado swept through parts of Louisiana Tuesday, and it was caught live on TV. Now, take a look at this video from WDSU in New Orleans. National Weather Service of New Orleans says the tornado made landfall Tuesday evening. Wow. In a tweet, the agency asked residents to, quote, take shelter now. Crews are assessing damage in the area. Many residents are without power. A tornado also made landfall in Mississippi, day after others ran through parts of Texas. Authorities are asking all living in the areas to take shelter. Let's look at today's top national stories, and we'll have another look at that Louisiana tornado when we return.
Tornado touched down in New Orleans overnight, killing one person from the same deadly system that has left major damage in Texas that's now pushing across the South, headed toward the Mid-Atlantic. Bradley Blackburn with the latest.
Lit up by lightning, this cell phone video captures the tornado that ripped through the New Orleans area, sending residents scrambling for cover.
We heard it coming down the street. It was a lot of whistling, so we had enough time to get in the bathroom, and it shook the whole house.
The storm destroyed multiple homes and knocked out power for thousands in the suburb of Araby. It was first reported just after 7 p.m.
And I said, it's coming, it's here. And the house started shaking.
Resident Jason Dickerson was home with his 5-year-old son.
When it pulled the roof off, it was actually, I was sheltering him, and then it was pulling me off the ground.
Search and rescue crews are going through the damage. Parish officials say there were multiple injuries and at least one death.
This is going to be a long haul. We just got off the phone with the governor and his team at GOSEP. Tomorrow we will have a better assessment of all of the homes, the number of people affected.
It adds to the toll of a dangerous and deadly weather system that spawned at least 20 tornadoes in Oklahoma and Texas Monday. In Jacksboro, Texas, this elementary school took a direct hit from an EF3, but everyone made it out safely.
It's just a miracle, and I was one of the first responders here, and this campus did a great job.
The governor of Texas has issued disaster declarations for 16 counties. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
That same storm system now pushing east, bringing the risk of more severe weather from northern Florida all the way to the Carolinas. As we take a live look over 7th and Rangeline, 38 degrees right now. Look at that wind chill dropping all the way down to 29, thanks in part to a good north wind, gusting at 22 miles per hour. Majority of our rain, for the most part, has stayed to the far northern counties of the 4 states. Now, you even see a little snow in there in southeast Kansas. We're not going to stick to the ground or anything because our ground is too warm. But yeah, like I said, you're going to see some snowflakes in there. And then as this moves east, it's going to be right over I-49 here in the next 15 to 20 minutes. Temperature is going to drop down to the 40s today, a far cry from where we were past couple of days. And then we should be done with our rain by Thursday afternoon. Then we begin our warm up for the weekend. More KOM morning news right after this.
Topping Health Watch this morning, the coronavirus pandemic has led to hospital staff shortages nationwide as healthcare workers report a significant rise in burnout. One survey by the American Association of Critical Care Nurses found nearly 70% of nurses said their experiences during the pandemic has caused them to consider leaving nursing. Natalie Brand shows us how a hospital group in Maryland is addressing the issue head on.
My name is Angie. I'm one of the nurses here. How are you today?
ICU nurse Angie Wheeler considers the job a calling. But the pandemic posed a test unlike any other in her 4 decades of experience.
The pandemic totally changed nursing.
And it's led to a surge in burnout among healthcare workers nationwide. This hospital in Prince George's County, Maryland, has experienced up to 30% turnover in nursing staff, according to Chief Nursing Officer Crystal Beckford.
If hospital systems don't address this, what does that mean?
Operationally, you could come to a standstill. We have to address nursing burnout.
That means rolling out a new self-care strategy, from treats to say thank you, to a quiet room to take a breath, even if only for a few minutes.
Notice any tension?
Meditation over Zoom.
Hold it.
Technique shared with new nurses in training.
Hospitals engaging with their staff and doing the little things really go a long way.
Ashley Gick, a nurse of 5 years, is using a new tuition assistance program to study management as hospitals innovate ways to retain their critical front line.
If we keep where we're at right now with staffing shortages and increased patient ratios. It burns you out, heart and soul.
While healthcare workers are trained to put others first,
what do you think is going to prevent healthcare workers from burning out?
Taking care of yourself first and foremost.
The intensity of the past 2 years has stressed the importance of taking time to recharge.
It's nice in the midst of things to see some beauty
and appreciate life in order to better serve others. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, Maryland.
Luminous Health in Maryland says their hospital chaplains are also making rounds to check in on the nursing staff in addition to the usual job of helping patients and their families. Infants and toddlers infected with COVID-19 show significantly higher levels of antibodies against the coronavirus compared to adults. The new findings from researchers at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health differ from earlier reports that children exposed to COVID-19 have low antibody responses. This analysis looked at samples from more than 600 children and 175 adults before vaccines were widely available. Evidence continues to mount that organ transplants from donors who had a past COVID-19 infection are safe. Italian researchers also say doctors can consider organs from donors with active infections, provided they show no COVID-19 symptoms and died from other causes. And researchers from the Netherlands say evidence gathered so far shows the period of infection for the Omicron variant does not appear much shorter than other COVID-19 variants like Delta. They say a 5-day isolation period for infections caused by the Omicron variant may strike a balance between limiting the spread and what communities are likely to accept going forward. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
Here's a look at our Wednesday morning rain as it's moving east from southeast Kansas into southwest Missouri and about to get on I-49 right there. It's just about making its way down to 54. Give you a better idea there from Nevada into Fort Scott. Any of that snow that you do see, really not going to affect travel because our ground's too warm. And then we're beginning to see it creep up again, just like that central band that we had yesterday that made its way from northeast Oklahoma right through the middle of the 4 states, now up through Delaware and Ottawa, just about into Labette County as well. So get ready for a wet one. Temperatures only in the low 40s today. We'll be back with more KOM Morning News right after this.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Coming up, a fatal crash takes the lives of 6 students in Oklahoma.
We've got some Wednesday morning rain. While not widespread, we also have much cooler temperatures. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch weather center.
And a Carl Junction woman loses her life in the hospital after a Sunday morning car crash.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6:30. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment. But first, let's go to Michael Hayslip in the Skywatch Weather Center.
No surprise that we've got a rain-splattered camera over 7th and Range Line. And check out our temperatures, Tanya. The wind chill dropping down to 29 degrees thanks in part to those northerly gusts coming in at 22 miles per hour. As far as our rain goes for this morning, give you an idea about what we're looking at up to the north, and that's where we'll start, especially as it approaches I-49, just to kind of hanging on Highway 54 in between Nevada and Fort Scott as well. Any of that blue and purple that you do see, that will be some snow that's coming down, but luckily our ground warm enough that it won't support any travel concerns. Down to the south, this is a familiar sight, one of those thin bands working its way from northeast Oklahoma right up through Labette County and eventually pushing into southwest Missouri just like we had yesterday afternoon. Now the positive side of it all is we've been able to lift the majority of our flood warnings. We only have one that's still in effect right now, and that's for the Little Osage River right there north of Nevada. In Vernon County. That won't expire until Friday. But really, our hardest rain is pretty much said and done. We're going to have to put up with scattered and sprinkle variety for the rest of the week. Temperatures anywhere from mid-30s, that's right, mid-30s to low 40s. But the severe weather as it moves toward the Atlantic going to mean for us just kind of an overcast and dreary, drizzly Wednesday. As it continues to come down here, kind of spins around on itself, lasts us all the way into Thursday. 2 days of very cool March weather where we're stuck in the 40s until Friday gives us sunshine. And not only a good-looking weekend, but how about 70s by the time we get to next week?
No kidding. Finally, temperatures in the 70s.
We're due.
We are very much so
You
due.
have to remember how much we got spoiled at the beginning of this month, though.
This month?
Yes. Do you remember that?
No.
The
All
70s,
I remember is
the
cold and
70s
ick.
that were coming out each and every day to begin the month of March. It was great. How we closed out February and started March.
Yeah.
I know it seems like a long time ago, but it really wasn't.
Now we're ending. I'm ready for spring. I'm ready for spring. I'm ready
We
for
are.
summer.
Because remember,
Yeah.
last Sunday was astronomical spring and March 1 was meteorological spring.
True.
You
But
just want spring weather. I
yes,
understand what you're saying.
I'm ready for actual spring weather.
Actual spring weather. I got it.
Yes, it would be nice. All right, thanks, Michael. Well, authorities arrest a second person in connection with the shooting death of a 15-year-old Chanute, Kansas teen. Police were called to the 200 block of Walnut, where they found Nasha Gregory with a gunshot wound on March 13th. She died at the hospital. According to court documents, 20-year-old Mackenzie Steves of Topeka is now charged with endangering the welfare of a child, contributing to a child's misconduct, and interference with law enforcement. Steves was arrested in Coffeyville. Steve's co-defendant, 19-year-old Traven Hayes Smith, is already in custody, charged with involuntary manslaughter, aggravated child endangerment, contributing to a child's misconduct, and interference with law enforcement. Both will be in court this week for their first appearance. Police in Parsons, Kansas, continue their search for a suspect wanted for attempted murder. In a news release, authorities announced they are looking for David Young III. They say Young got into a fight with Tyrone Mayweathers of Kansas City in front of a Parsons bar and shot Mayweathers. First responders found Mayweathers with multiple gunshot wounds and rushed him to the hospital, where he is still receiving care. Young is wanted for attempted second-degree murder and criminal possession of a firearm by a felon. Police believe he has left the area. Tragedy strikes an Oklahoma community as a car crash takes the lives of 6 students. 6 students were in a car that collided with a semi-truck on U.S. Highway 377 near Tishomingo, Oklahoma, yesterday afternoon. The Oklahoma Highway Patrol did not have details of the collision or the exact ages of the students, but says all 6 victims were female. Tishomingo Public School Superintendent Bobby Wadeham said in a Facebook post the district had a great loss involving students from the district's high school, that our hearts are broken. District made counselors available at the high school and said the school would be open today with a focus on the emotional well-being of our students. Carl Junction woman succumbs to her injuries suffered in a crash Sunday morning. Joplin police say the crash happened on State Highway 171 and North St. Louis Avenue. 48-year-old Rebecca McAllister was driving west when the vehicle left the road and struck a stoplight pole. McAllister died at a local hospital. A Kansas City man dies from injuries suffered in a Joplin fire last week. Fire crews were called last Thursday to a fire at an old warehouse on the 1400 block of South Virginia. 2 people were taken to the hospital with burns. 50-year-old Aaron Simons has died from his injuries. Joplin Fire Marshal ruled the fire accidental due to occupants grinding metal near combustible materials. President Biden heads to Europe today for what may be the most consequential trip of his presidency. The president will attempt to continue building support within NATO to counter Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Bradley Blackburn has the details.
President Biden leaves for Brussels this morning on his way to meet with NATO and European leaders to discuss the war in Ukraine.
He will have the opportunity to coordinate on the next phase of military assistance to Ukraine. He will join our partners in imposing further sanctions on Russia.
National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan says the president will announce joint actions to reduce Europe's dependence on Russian gas. Despite a continued Russian bombardment, Pentagon spokesman John Kirby says Ukrainian forces are now attempting to take back occupied territories.
We have seen indications that the Ukrainians are going a bit more on the offense now.
Ukraine's military says it recaptured the strategically important town of Makariv just outside the capital Kyiv, and they're now fighting to wrest back control of the cities of Izium and Kherson. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says step by step peace negotiations are moving forward, Though in an interview with CNN, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov refused to rule out the possibility of nuclear attacks.
President Putin intends to make the world listen to and understand our concerns.
Moscow is cracking down on dissidents at home. Yesterday, Russia's most prominent opposition leader, Alexei Navalny, was sentenced to 9 years in prison. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News.
Russian prosecutors say Navalny embezzled funds from his supporters. The sentence extends his time in prison. Navalny is currently serving a 2.5-year sentence that would have ended in 2023. On this day, way back in 1839, the initials OK entered the national vernacular. Meant as abbreviation for all correct, popular slang misspelling of all correct. At the time, OK steadily made its way into the everyday speech of Americans. OK, yeah. During the late 1830s, it was a favorite practice among younger, educated circles to misspell words intentionally and then abbreviate them and use them as slang when talking to one another. Of all the abbreviations used during that time, OK was propelled into the limelight when it was printed in the Boston Morning Post as part of a joke. Its popularity exploded when it was picked up by contemporary politicians. I did not know that. Huh.
Also, too, would make for a great musical. What I would do, if I was going to make a musical, I would go with the OK, and then I would go L-A-H-O-M-A, Oklahoma, OK.
Okay. Seriously, okay.
We did talk musicals by the way, it's nice to have you back. It is nice to have you back. I miss
Did I miss some singing?
We talked musicals the other day, and I just found it. I was thinking about that and I can't remember. Ron, I have to ask because I'm a little scatterbrained this morning. Why were we talking musicals the other day? Was it Andrew Lloyd Webber? Thank you. It was Andrew Lloyd Webber's birthday, I believe. And so we were talking musicals, and then when you said you were talking about OK, I immediately thought OK, L-A-H-O-M-A. I mean, if you want me to get started, I can do no?
Do you feel up to it?
Sit alone and talk and watch a hawk making lazy circles in the sky. Oh.
Oklahoma. All right.
We know we belong to the land, and the land we belong to is
Are they getting any rain down in Oklahoma?
You know what? What a great transition, because when you say, okay.
Okay.
We're all doing fine, Oklahoma.
By George?
Yeah, we are just a little bit there. We're moving out of Delaware County. Sprinkles throughout and whatnot. A big factor for today, Tanya, is this is the winter jacket time. This is where we drop back into the 40s for Wednesday and Thursday before we begin our warm-up.
All right, thanks, Michael. That's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News, the demand for microchips jumped during the pandemic, and now experts are looking for ways to produce them, more of them at least, right here in America. Plus, refugees from Afghanistan have begun the process of settling into American life. We want to know if you would take in refugees. We'll be right back. In Consumer Watch this morning, the demand for microchips jumped during the pandemic, and production disruptions and supply chain issues made it difficult for suppliers to keep up. And now experts want the government to help American manufacturers make more chips. Meg Oliver reports.
How big is this facility?
So this facility is about 420,000 square feet.
Here at Global Foundries in upstate New York, everything looks yellow. Special lighting is used to protect the delicate production of microchips. Engineer Christopher Belfi is equipment manager.
How complex is it to make these microchips? They're in everything we use, phones, TVs, cars.
It is extremely complex.
Chips are needed for just about all devices: laptops, home appliances like refrigerators, gaming consoles, and medical equipment. The chips are the brains of devices. The U.S. produces just around 12% of the world's supply, and we've relied heavily on chips produced in Asia. But when the pandemic hit, it shut down major production plants, decreasing supply. There is renewed focus on producing more chips at home, as some experts warn not doing so could also be a national security risk. The House is currently considering the Chips for America Act. That would provide U.S. manufacturers with $52 billion in funding to help boost domestic production.
Why is it so important to manufacture on American soil?
Well, I think it starts first and foremost with security.
Tom Caulfield is the CEO of Global Foundries. In addition to upstate New York, they have facilities in Vermont, Germany, and Singapore.
What stage are we at in this chip shortage?
I'd like to be more optimistic and tell you that right around the corner, help's on its way. Just the complexity of technology, that it takes years to put capacity on. And I think for the better part of the next 5 to 10 years, we'll be chasing supply in this industry.
Experts estimate the chip shortage cost the U.S. economy around $240 billion last year. A recent report from the Department of Commerce found in 2021, demand for chips were as high as 17% more than in 2019.
Both the House and Senate have passed their own versions of the CHIP Act, and while there seems to be bipartisan support, there's no agreement yet, and so no funding. That's it for Consumer Watch. Let's go over to Michael for something to talk about.
Thank you, Tanya. This morning on the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll, talking about a hotel in Phoenix, Arizona that's helping improve the lives of Afghan refugees who recently migrated to the United States, offering them not only jobs but also a place to live with their families. Our question for you this morning is, would you take in refugees? Obviously an issue that's come to light with the war in Ukraine as well. 50%, we're split right down the middle right now. 50% saying yes, 50% saying no. You can always take part by going to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. We're going to come back, celebrate birthdays and anniversaries, but first a look at what's coming up on CBS Mornings.
Ahead on CBS Mornings, we're taking you to Texas with the latest on the powerful tornadoes that swept through that state. Also, we'll take a look at the computer chip shortage that has national security experts very worried. We'll go inside a factory in New York State trying to keep up with the demand. Plus, the latest in our Changing the Game series with writer, director, there she is, and producer, the great Ava DuVernay. She talks with Jamie Yuccas and Melinda French Gates about spotlighting the work of women and people of color behind the camera. We'll see you 7 o'clock on the dot.
We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, Arthur Scholes. Private First Class Arthur Scholes served in the Army from 1944 to 1946. We thank you, today's hero, Arthur Scholes.
Oh, look at this ballerina-to-be, Bryce-Lee Pritchett, turning the big number 4. Bryce-Lee, I want you to have a marvelous birthday, kiddo. She's in Uniontown.
In Pittsburgh, turning 5 years old this year, it's time to celebrate for little Spencer Kreitz. Happy birthday.
In Weir, Abigail York, now celebrating her 11th birthday. Up on the saddle. Happy birthday, Abigail.
All right, and Katie Folk, turning 17 years old this year. In Oswego, happy birthday wishes coming from Mom, Dad, and the girls.
And Jesse Bluer, now 18 years old. A very happy birthday to Jesse in Oswego as well.
All right, and in Riverton, Megan Hill turning 33 years old this year. That's a fun picture. Happy birthday, Megan.
This is my man, the outlaw. That dude right there. You know, every time that we give a little information down there weather-wise from Southwest Missouri, it comes from that dude. That's right. He's my boots on the ground. He is the man letting me know what's going on down there. Mike, you know we love you, and a very happy birthday to you. And congratulations on the big number 60.
All right. Dinah Lauman, or Dina, is 62 years old this year in Girard, with love from Laura and the kids.
Joyce Bates celebrating a birthday. Cool card, too. Joyce, a very happy birthday to you in Armo.
All right. And in Fort Scott, Jeff and Andrea Scott are celebrating their 20th anniversary this year. Congratulations to the Scotts.
run out to Carthage, where Scott and Shirley Hounshall celebrated their 43rd anniversary. Congratulations to the Hounshells. Good looking picture, too.
All right.
Who that is?
And
Extended family.
Yeah, we've got Jasmine Camp. She is our operations manager, Daniel Camp's daughter, turning 12 years old this year. There with her dog. Love that picture. Jasmine is in Pittsburgh.
That was a good picture. Charlotte Eichhorn, happy birthday in Altamont. Oh my gosh, Tim Seeger, 61. I'm not shocked that Tim Seeger's 61. Almost called him Tim Seeliger. Tim Seeger, hey, happy 61st birthday to you, sir, in Parsons. Sean Graham is celebrating his 25th birthday in Erie, and get this, his grandpa, well, that's John. And John's birthday is tomorrow as John celebrates 79 one day after his grandson turns 25. So a very exciting time for the Graham family there in Erie, and a happy birthday to both of you. A happy birthday and happy anniversary to all. Here's Tanya Bach with a very important birthday announcement.
That's right. You can be a part of the KOAM Birthday Club by going to our website and signing up. And once you do, you'll get special deals from local businesses. Go to KOAMnewsnow.com and sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today.
Oh my goodness, Ron was so worried about time on the clock that, you know what, you got so worried that I should tell you what's coming up on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. But you know what you should do? I was going to say flip on over and join us. But we're going to meet Hannah Schmidt because got dismayed by the price of a prom dress. Well, guess what, parents? Coming up on Fox 14, we got a creative way that she solved the prom dress price experience. You're not going to want to miss this. I wish I would have known about this. We'll be back right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. A Southern Oklahoma high school and community are grieving as they learn that 6 students have died in a crash. 6 students were in a car that collided with a semi-truck on U.S. Highway 377 near Tishomingo, Oklahoma yesterday afternoon. Oklahoma Highway Patrol did not have details of the collision or the exact ages of the students. It says all 6 victims were female. Tishomingo Public School Superintendent Bobby Wadham said in a Facebook post that the district had a great loss involving students from the district's high school and that our hearts are broken. The district made counselors available at the high school and said the school would be open today with a focus on the emotional well-being of our students. Carl Junction woman has died from injuries suffered in a crash Sunday morning. Joplin police say the crash happened on State Highway 171 and North St. Louis Avenue. 48-year-old Rebecca McAllister was driving west when the vehicle left the road and struck a stoplight pole. McAllister died at a local hospital. Authorities have released the identity of a man shot by Joplin police over the weekend, and they filed charges against him. 34-year-old Michael Yarga of Joplin is charged with third-degree assault and resisting arrest. The incident happened Saturday. Police say an officer made contact with 3 people near 9th and Connor when one man ran and the officer chased after him. Authorities say Yarga stopped a few blocks away and assaulted the officer. The second officer then shot Yarga. Injured officer was treated and released. Yarga is still in the hospital. Missouri Highway Patrol is investigating the shooting. A second person is arrested in connection with the shooting death of a 15-year-old Chanute, Kansas teen. Police were called to the 200 block of Walnut, where they found Nasha Gregory with a gunshot wound on March 13th. She died at a hospital. According to court documents, 20-year-old Mackenzie Steves of Topeka is now charged with endangering the welfare of a child, contributing to a child's misconduct, and interference with law enforcement. Steves was arrested in Coffeyville. Steve's co-defendant, 19-year-old Traven Hayes-Smith, is already in custody, charged with involuntary manslaughter, aggravated child endangerment, contributing to a child's misconduct, and interference with law enforcement. Both will be in court this week for their first appearance. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Dreary and chilly today as the rain is a little spotty, but don't go anywhere without an umbrella or a heavy winter coat. I'd go. I don't know if it needs to be heavy winter coat. 40s. Anticipate that. Do me a favor. Be safe. We'll do this all again tomorrow.
And we're going to do it again today at noon.